welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here another set of pens for a comparison, and this is the custom pen makers comparison, and this is video 1, and hopefully I'll have some more videos, some more pens to bring you in the near future. So I think from left to right, we'll take a look at these pens briefly one by one. We'll do a little bit more detail, and then we'll do a writing sample. So from left to right, we have an Atelier Lusso Carina, and this is in the Diamond Nebula from Eric at Atelier Lusso or lussopens.com in California. We have another Atelier Lusso Carina, and this is in the Black Ice Alumilite. We have a pen here from Sean at the London Pen Company in Ontario, Canada, and this is the Christopher 15 in Caramel Erinoid. We have another pen from Sean at the London Pen Company, and this is a Christopher 15, and this is in the Jonathan Brooks Primary Manipulation 1 material. We have a Bumpy Chameleon, and this is the purple, and this is from Chris at Butterknife Creations. We have another pen from Chris at Butterknife Creations. This is, again, another Bumpy Chameleon, but this is in the Red Ripple Ebonite. We have another pen from Chris at Butterknife Creations, and this is again a Bumpy Chameleon, but this is in the Mackenzie Works, Penworks Diamond Cast, and this is the Oil Slick. We have another pen here from Chris at the Butterknife Creations studio, and this is a Bumpy Chameleon, and this is in Boysenberry. We have another Atelier Lusso, and this is an Andromeda, and this is in the King Cobra. And another Atelier Lusso Andromeda, and this is in the Vulcan's Forge. So I think let's take a look at these pens in a little bit more detail. So this is from Eric at Atelier Lusso, and Eric does some really, really good work here on his custom pens. This is one of his earlier creations, and I love this pen because it is a diamond cast material from Mackenzie Penworks. And the diamond cast, if you're not aware of it, is a resin that Mackenzie Works actually makes, but they actually have infused within that resin a diamond dust, and it is real diamond dust. So for me, this is a pen that I am absolutely loving. It's got a lot of glitter and chatoyance to this pen. If I just show that there on camera, and it has a hammered textured clip as well, which is polished. But you could just see here, this material is quite nice. Now, if I unscrew, it does come with a Yovo nib. This one, I particularly asked for a broad nib, and that has a broad nib. These are cartridge converters. Now, one thing you're going to find from most pen or custom pen manufacturers or makers is that most of their pens are going to be cartridge converter. Some will think a little bit outside the box and maybe put a piston in there, but for the most part, I would say that most custom pens are going to be cartridge converters. Maybe they might be eyedropper filled as well, because if they have plastic threads or resin threads, not metal threads, then you can also eyedropper that pen. But in most cases, the custom pens are going to be cartridge converter. Some people like that, some people don't like that. So that's just something to bear in mind, unless you're going to maybe have a pen commissioned from a custom pen maker, in which case you can say to them, hey, look, do you have an option here for maybe fitting a piston to this pen, or what other filling mechanisms have you worked with that perhaps you might be able to put in this pen? The next pen here is another pen from Eric at Atelier Lusso, or lussopens.com. And this was when he started to put the L for Lusso on the cap finial, which I really liked. He has since switched that to a dragon moniker or logo. This is a beautiful, beautiful material. This is made out of aluminite, which is a mix or blend between resin and other materials. So this does have some metal chips in there, which you can probably see, and it's all throughout the body there that you will every now and again see a little piece of metal sparkle there, and it's quite an interesting. There's another one there on the end of that finial. So this is a really beautiful material. I like it a lot. I had asked Eric for a material like this with it was more sort of like wood comb sort of mixture to it, and Eric decided that it could be a problem to actually turn that. So we looked at other material, and Eric found this and said, "What do you think of this material? This looks very similar," and I absolutely love it. So for me, this is a brilliant material. Again, Eric typically uses Yovo nibs. This is a Yovo. It's a broad nib there, and again, these are cartridge converter pens. So that's you'll get about 0.7 milliliters of ink in these pens. The next pen here is a pen from Sean at the London Pen Company in Ontario, Canada. And Sean is doing some really, really good work. This is a caramel aeronoid. So this really goes to a very high shine that you can see here. It's a beautiful, beautiful brown pen. And I'm not normally one for brown pens, but I have to say I really do like this. There is a lot of chatoyance going on there in that pen. As you twist that there, you can see it really is a beautiful work of art. There's no cap finials on here. It's a cartridge converter. Now, this does have a broad Yovo steel nib, and you can see that there. This one does have an ebonite section as well. A lot of the pens that Sean will turn will have resin sections to match the pen if he's got enough material, or providing there isn't a problem with a section cracking. But one thing to bear in mind is that when you're getting a custom pen made, is that sometimes there are breakages, and there in a lot of cases the rods are normally only 5 inches or 6 inches long, which is enough just to basically make the body and the cap and possibly a section. But depending on the length of the pen, you may actually, or if you have breakages, you might actually then have issues. So if you're going to supply material to a custom pen maker and say, I want a pen made out of this, then make sure you do supply enough material. That's one thing that I would say. But worst case scenario, you could have an ebonite section made out of a pen as well. And Sean does some great work there at the London Pen Company. The next pen here is, again, another pen from Sean at the London Pen Company. This is the Christopher 15, and this is in the Jonathan Brooks Primary Manipulation 1, and this is an amazing material. I do like some of the material that Jonathan Brooks is creating there in I think it's North Carolina or maybe South Carolina. Probably South Carolina. But I do like the look of this pen, and this is a really, really good material there. And I think that Sean has really made this pen to a great quality. The size of this pen, it's a lot larger in terms of girth than the standard Christopher, and it does have the resin section there as well that you can see. Sean has actually switched to some Bock nibs. So this is a number 6 size Bock nib. It's a broad nib. Again, cartridge converter pens, but these are I do like cartridge converters. I went through a phase where I wanted cartridge converters, and then I wanted piston and power vac fillers. And honestly, although a cartridge converter doesn't hold as much ink, you can change the ink a lot more frequently, or even clean the pen out and put it back in your drawer and then pick up another pen and ink it up. So that's one of the good reasons to have a cartridge converter pen, and they are very easy to clean out. The next pen here is a pen from Chris at Butterknife Creations. This is a Bumpy Chameleon, and This is called the in-house purple. And I know what you're thinking, yeah, it's a pink pen, but it does have this purple shimmer going on. And you can see that there. And I think that that purple shimmer really does accentuate that pink and make it look really nice. I also like that it has this sort of almost sort of semi-opaque white area here and a cap finial as well. Now, this is a Bumpy Chameleon, so you will notice that the cap doesn't actually sort of close and is seamless. But for me, though, I like this a lot. You can see that this one is inked up as well. Again, a number 6 size Bock nib there. And this is a really, really nice pen. And I think Chris at Butterknife Creations is doing a lot of good work. And that is a broad steel nib. The next pen here is again another Bumpy Chameleon from Chris at Butterknife Creations. This is an ebonite material. So it's ebonite, if you don't know, is vulcanized or hard rubber. It's an interesting material to work from. It can smell when you turn it. Most of the time, ebonite doesn't smell once you have turned it and let it sort of air dry effectively. But this is a beautiful material. It's a red ripple effect, and you can probably see that there. The polishing to this is actually quite, you can see from my studio lights, is quite good. And I'm in awe of this material. I have wanted a red ripple for a while, and I may have to pick up a red ripple from Chris at Butterknife Creations. Now, this does have a number 6 size nib. It's a Bock nib, and I'm just going to take a look because it's not listed. It's a medium nib there. But you can see that black coated nib, and that, for me, is a really nice pen. So that one is there as well. Another Butterknife Creations from Chris, and Chris is in Ontario, Canada, like Sean as well. And this is a Bumpy Chameleon, but this is a beautiful diamond cast material from Mackenzie Penworks, and it's aptly named the Oil Slick. And I think you can see why, because it has so many different colours here. So I rotate that pen. It really is an amazing material. Now, I know not everybody is interested in a material like this. I personally am. I like my diamond cast Atelier Lusso Carina here, and I really do like this as well. The Bumpy Chameleon comes with a number 6 size Bock nib, so Chris at Butterknife Creations is mostly using Bock nibs, I believe. It's a cartridge converter pen. These are, like all of these four here, these are clipless pens. So you can, some pen makers will make clips like Eric at Atelier Lusso. Some will not. Typically, a lot of the bulk standard clips that you could buy as a pen maker are not that great, at least from what I have seen. And so people like Eric at Atelier Lusso will hand make clips. Others will not. Some will put a roll stop in the pens. So you could certainly go that option as well if you wanted to. But that is an option. So again, if you're going to buy a pen and actually have a pen commissioned from a custom pen maker, then do actually speak to them and say, look, what are the options available? The next pen, and this is the last pen from Chris at Butterknife Creations, is again a Bumpy Chameleon, and this is Boysenberry. And this is, I have to say, is a beautiful pen. It's got a lot of white, a lot of crimson or sort of light blue, sort of cyany green, aqua lagoon type colours in there. And this is a really good, beautiful pen. And this, again, is a Bumpy Chameleon, but this is a really nice pen. So this is a number 6 size Bock nib, and I believe that one is a fine nib on this one. Again, cartridge converters, but these, honestly, I am really loving cartridge converters nowadays. As much as I do long writing sessions, and I do like a pen that holds maybe 1.2 milliliters to 2.5 milliliters of ink. I do prefer the cartridge converters a lot, and I will typically refill them on the go if I'm at work or elsewhere. And I have a number of different Penida pen fillers that I will ink up, and this one's got Akamon SBRE Brown in it. So I will ink up those on the go and just take those with me in my pen case. The next pen here is another Atelier Lusso pen, and this is his Andromeda. And this is in the King Cobra, and this was a pen that I commissioned from Eric, and you've got the Alpha Lusso there. And I wanted this material. The Cobra comes in the material. It's actually on top of, I'm guessing it's spray painted, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it may even actually be carved into the material. I don't know. But this is a beautiful pen. It's got a lot of silver, a lot of gold, and you can just see that there. I think it's more on the surface here than deep, but it's beautiful pen. And if I unscrew this, you've got a number 6 size. This is a Yovo Broad Nib, again cartridge converter. You do have a seamless cap on these Andromedas, so if you take a look there, it's very hard to see that seam. There is one there, but it's really more difficult to see it there. And then the last pen here on this comparison, this Maker's Edition comparison, is this one. It's from Eric at Atelier Lusso. Again, another Andromeda, and you'll see the L for Lusso there, if I get it the right way up. And this is the Vulcan's Forge. And this, I wanted a material that was a fiery orange. And I commissioned this from Eric because I realized that I liked orange inks and I didn't have that many orange pens. So I decided I would have this one made out of this material that I handpicked, and it doesn't disappoint me. The quality of Eric's work, like all of these pen makers, Sean at the London Pen Company, we've got Chris at Butterknife Creations, and Eric at Atelier Lusso. All of their work is extremely well done. They polish their pens to a high standard. They are very accommodating in every way, and the pens that they make are really great. Now, if I unscrew this, you'll see here this has a number 6 size Yovo nib. A lot of pen makers will either go for the Bock route or the Yovo route. Some will actually switch and hedge their bets, because I think a lot of them are starting to realize now that a lot of people either like a Yovo nib or they like a Bock nib, but they don't like the other. So in that respect, I think a lot of custom pen makers, if they can purchase them, will purchase a selection of Bock nibs and a selection of Yovo nibs. So you can then take your pick there. Now, these are all steel nibs. You can also get them with gold nibs. Most custom pen makers will do gold nibs as well if you really want to pay that extra premium. But you're going to be adding probably $150 to the price of the pen if you wanted a gold nib instead of a steel nib. Some of them will also do titanium nibs. Now, titanium nibs are a little bit more expensive than steel nibs. They're not quite as expensive, say, as a gold nib. It really depends on the size of the nib. Like a number 8 size titanium nib will probably run you about $150, whereas a number 6 size titanium nib is probably maybe double the price of a steel nib, so maybe not as much. So there you have it. That's my custom pen makers edition video 1 here. I think with that, let's do a writing sample so you can see just how these pens write. So the first pen is the Atelier Lusso Carina in Diamond Nebula. So what we'll do is we'll do an ink swatch so you can see the ink that I've got inked up in this pen. And this is an interesting ink that I am liking a lot in this pen at the moment. So this is an Atelier Lusso, Carina, and this is in the Diamond, Nebula. Now, this is a board. It's a steel nib. It's a Yovo nib. And then the ink in here is Monteverde, and it's Blueberry Muffin, which I still believe is not a a blue ink, but it's a really nice coloured ink. The next pen is an Atelier Lusso Carina, and this is in the Black Ice Illuminate. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now I do have a light colour ink in here. I guess being a black ice I could put black ink, but I don't really want to. I want a colour that matches some of these oranges here. So this is an Atelier Lusso Carina, and it's in the Black Ice, and it's Illuminate. And it's a broad, and it's a steel nib. And then the ink in here is Monteverde, and it's Mango Mousse, which is a beautiful ink. It goes on a little bit light, but it then starts to dry a darker colour. The next pen is the London pen company Christopher, and this is from Sean at the London Pen Company. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now, Sean does a number of different nibs on his pen. So this is a Yovo nib. It's a broad nib as well. And I really, if I'm going for a Yovo nib, I much prefer a broad nib. I find the mediums a little bit too narrow in a lot of cases for me. But that's just me though. So this is the London Pen Company, and it's the Christopher, and it's in Erinoid Caramel, or Caramel Erinoid, depending on which way you want to say it. It's got a broad steel nib, and then the ink in here is a really nice dark brown. It's a diamine chocolate brown. But you can see there that pen, just like the two Atelier Lussos, writes really, really well. The next pen is another London Pen Company pen. This is a Christopher 15, and this is in Primary Manipulation 1. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now, this is a Bock nib, and it is a broad nib, but it's a little bit narrower than those Yovo nibs, I would say. So this is a London Pen Company, and it's the Christopher 15, and this is in Primary Manipulation 1 from Jonathan Brooks. This is a broad Bock steel nib. And then the ink in here is Diamine Meadow. But as you can see here, again, whether or not it's a Bock nib, whether or not it's a Yovo nib, these nibs are writing really well. The next pen is a pen from Chris at Butterknife Creations, and this is the Bumpy Chameleon in In-House Purple. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now, I have a pink ink inked up in this pen at the moment. So let's just take a look at this. This is one of my favourite two pink inks. And so this is a Butterknife and it's Creations. and it's the Bumpy Chameleon, and it's the in-house purple. And this one, I'm just going to double check, is a broad still nib, and that's a Bock nib. Now the ink in here is Pilot Awashizuku, and it's Sutsuji. But again, that's a Bock nib, and it's writing extremely well. The next pen is again another Butterknife Creations, and this is a Bumpy Chameleon in Red Ripple Ebonite. So we'll do an ink swatch, and again, this is another Bock nib, and you can see that there. Now, I'm just going to double check because these don't actually have any nib designations on them. This is a medium Bock nib, so this is a Butterknife Creations, and it's a Bumpy Chameleon, and it's the Red Ripple, and it's a medium still nib. And then the ink in here is Waterman Intense Black, which again is a really nice writing nib. I would say because it's a black nib, it does have a bit more feedback to it. Typically, black coated nibs do, because in a lot of cases the black nibs have the tipping coated black. So bear that in mind if you're going for a coloured nib. The next pen, again, is another Butterknife Creations, and this is a Bumpy Chameleon, and this is in diamond cast, and it is oil slick. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now, I can already tell this is a broad nib. So this is a Butterknife Creations. I know I'm going to run out of space here. This is a Bumpy Chameleon, and I'm just going to call it the oil slick because it's a diamond cast, but it's an oil slick, and it's a broad, and it's a Bock still nib. And then the ink in here is Papier Plume, and it's Forget Me Not Blue, which is a lovely blue, I have to say. I think it matches that blue on that pen quite nicely. The next pen is another Butterknife Creations pen from Chris, and this is a Bumpy Chameleon in Boysenberry. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now this is a fine nib, and I can definitely tell it's a fine nib because it's writing a much, much finer line, and has a little bit of feedback to it, which is fine as well. So this is a Butterknife Creations, and it's a Bumpy Chameleon, and it's Boysenberry, and it's a Bock still nib, and you can just about fit it on there. And then the ink in here is Rohrer and Klinger, and it's Blue Mare. But even though it's a fine nib, it writes really well. No hard starts or skips. The next pen is an Atelier Lusso Andromeda, and this is in the King Cobra. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now this is a broad Yovo nib from Eric at Atelier Lusso. So this is Atelier Lusso Andromeda, and it's the King Cobra, and it's a broad and it's a still nib, it's a Yovo nib. And then the ink in here is a very, very saturated ink. It's diamine, and it is Skull and Roses, which, if you don't know, is a high sheening ink, and it is also a German exclusive as well. So if you want that ink, you do need to buy it from a German retailer. And then the last pen is another Atelier Lusso Andromeda from Eric, and this is the Vulcan's Forge. So again, we'll do an ink swatch, and you can see how this pen writes. And this is a broad nib. So this is an Atelier Lusso Andromeda, and this is in the Vulcan's Forge. It's a broad, it's a Yovo still nib. And then the ink in here today is Diamine Blaze Orange, which is a beautiful orange ink. So I think let's just take a look at these pens inked up one more time. So we have an Atelier Lusso Carina in the Diamond Nebula from Eric, and this is in a broad still nib inked up with Monteverde Blueberry Muffin. We have another pen from Eric at Atelier Lusso, and this is a Carina in Black Ice Illuminite in a broad still nib inked up with Monteverde Mango Mousse. We have a pen from Sean at the London Pen Company in Ontario, Canada, and this is a Christopher in Erinoid Caramel. It's a broad still nib, and it's inked up with Diamine Chocolate Brown. We have another pen from Sean at the London Pen Company, and this is a Christopher 15, and this is in the Jonathan Brooks Primary Manipulation 1 material. It's a broad still nib, and it's inked up with Diamine Meadow. We have a pen from Chris at Butterknife Creations, and he is also in Ontario, Canada, and he has this one here is a Bumpy Chameleon in in-house purple with a broad still nib inked up with Pilot Iroshizuku Sutsuji. We have another pen from Chris at Butterknife Creations in Ontario, Canada, and this is a Bumpy Chameleon in the Red Ripple Ebonite, and this is a medium still nib, and the ink in here is Waterman Intense Black. We have another pen from Chris at Butterknife Creations in Ontario, Canada. This is a Bumpy Chameleon in the Diamond Cast Oil Slick. That's a material from Mackenzie Penworks. This is a broad still nib, and it's inked up with Papier Plume Forget Me Not Blue. And we have another pen here from Chris at Butterknife Creations. He's in Ontario, Canada. This is a Bumpy Chameleon in the Boysenberry with a fine still nib, and it's inked up with Rohrer and Klinger Blue Mare. We have an Atelier Lusso Andromeda, and this is from Eric, California. This is a King Cobra, and it's a broad still nib, and it's inked up with the Diamine German exclusive Skull and Roses. And then we have an Atelier Lusso Andromeda in the Vulcan's Forge from Eric in California with a broad still nib inked up with Diamine Blaze Orange. So there you have it. That's my custom pen makers video number 1. If you like this video and you want to see more of these, then not only let me know, but also let your custom pen maker know so they can send me some pens, and I will try and do some more of these custom pen maker comparisons in the future as well. So please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.